My cat has figured out the play button, so you may hear the word play occasionally. Hi, I'm Gail. Thank you for joining me on the Secular Scriptures. Today's reading is Genesis chapter 30, verse 25 through chapter 31, Decorative Sheep and a Treaty Heap, from the World English Bible, a free public domain translation of the Bible without which this study would not be possible. If you don't want to stick around for the discussion, flee to the next video. But if you would like to stay for some history, literary analysis, comparative mythology, and conflicts, contradictions, and controversies, I will send you off with mirth and songs, tambourine and harp. No kisses, ew. This is a secular Bible study, so let us make a covenant that you will neither proselytize nor attack in the pile of comments below. I am not a biblical scholar. I just love these stories. Discussions are welcome, fighting is not. Now, come sit on the camel's saddle with your favorite beverage, and let's tell this story with a very sharp possum cat. It's going to be really hard to read this with you standing in the way, Miss Possum. Come on. Ouch. Why are you biting me? When Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away that I may go to my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service with which I have served you." Laban said to him, "Now, if I have found favor in your eyes, stay here, for I have divined that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake." He said, "Appoint me your wages, and I will give it." Jacob said to him, "Yes, I know how I have served you, and how your livestock have fared with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it has increased to a multitude. Yahweh has blessed you wherever I have turned. Now, when will I provide for my own house as well?" Laban said, "What shall I give you?" Jacob said, "You will not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted one, and every black one among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats. This will be my hire. So my righteousness will answer for me hereafter, when you come concerning my hire that is before you. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and the black among the sheep, that might be with me, will be considered stolen." Laban said, "Behold, let it be according to your word." That day he removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. He set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob took himself rods of fresh poplar among almond and plane tree, peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. He set the rods which he had peeled opposite the flocks in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink. They conceived when they came to drink. The flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks produced streaked, speckled, and spotted. I cannot see through your head, Miss Possum. We're talking about speckled and spotted sheep here, and your little kitty face is in the way. And I know it is kitty bath time and kitty cuddle time, but it is also read the Bible time. Could you take a bath in my arms so that I can see what I'm reading? This is my life. Rear yourself. Rear. Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flock towards the streaked and all the black in Laban's flock. He put his own droves apart and didn't put them into Laban's flock. Wherever the stronger of the flock conceived, Jacob laid the rods in front of the eyes of the flock in the watering troughs, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flock were feeble, he didn't put them in, so the feebler were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. The man increased exceedingly, and had large flocks, ow, don't bite me, female servants and male servants, and camels and donkeys. I love that you give me kisses, but I do not like that you bite me. Chapter 31. Jacob heard Laban's son's words, saying, "Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. He has obtained all his wealth from that which was our father's." Jacob saw the expression on Laban's face, and behold, it was not towards him as before. Yahweh said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see the expression on your father's face that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God didn't allow him to hurt me. If he said the speckled will be your wages, then all the flock bore speckled. If he said the streaked will be your wages, then all the flock bore streaked. Thus God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. During mating season I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the male goats which leaped on the flock were streaked, speckled, and grizzled. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. He said, Now lift up your eyes, and behold, all the male goats which leap on the flock are streaked, speckled, and grizzled, for I have seen all that Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise, get out from this land, and return to the land of your birth. I am not hurting you, I am just petting you, Miss Grumpy Pants. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise, get out from this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah answered him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Aren't we considered as foreigners by him? For he has sold us, and has also used up our money. For all the riches which God has taken away from our father are ours as our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives on the camels. And he took away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gathered, including the livestock which he had gained in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father to the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the teraphim that were her father's. Jacob deceived Laban the Syrian in that he didn't tell him that he was running away. So he fled with all he had. He rose up, passed over the river, and set his face towards the mountain of Gilead. Laban was told on the 3rd day that Jacob had fled. He took his relatives with him and pursued him 7 days' journey. He overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream of the night and said to him, Be careful that you don't speak to Jacob, either good or bad. You gotta do the God voice. Laban caught up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban, with his relatives, encamped in the mountain of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, What have you done that you have deceived me and carried away my daughters like captives of the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and didn't tell me that I might have sent you away with mirth and with songs, with tambourine and with harp, and didn't allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Now you have done foolishly. It is in the power of my hand to hurt you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you don't speak to Jacob, either good or bad. Now, you want to be gone because you greatly longed for your father's house. But why have you stolen my gods? Jacob answered Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you should take your daughters from me by force. Anyone you find your gods with shall not live. Before our relatives discern what is yours with me and take it. For Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the 2 female servants, but he didn't find them. He went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the teraphim and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. Laban felt around all the tent, but didn't find them. She said to her father, Don't let my lord be angry that I can't rise up before you, for I'm having my period. He searched, but didn't find the teraphim. Jacob was angry and argued with Laban, and Jacob answered Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have felt around all my stuff, what have you found of all your household stuff? Set it here before my relatives and your relatives, that they may judge between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not cast their young, and I haven't eaten the rams of your flocks. That which was torn of animals I didn't bring to you, I bore its loss. Of my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. This was my situation. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac has been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. Laban answered Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. What can I do today to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? Now come, let us make a covenant, you and I. Let it be for a witness between me and you. Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. Jacob said to his relatives, "Gather stones." They took stones and made a heap. They ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, which means witness heap in Aramaic. But Jacob called it Galid, which means witness heap in Hebrew. Laban said, "This heap is witness between me and you today." Therefore it was named Galid and Mitzpah, for he said, "Yahweh watch between me and you when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, no man is with us. Behold, God is witness between me and you." Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap and see the pillar which I have set between me and you. May this heap be a witness, and the pillar to be a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and that you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." Then Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his relatives to eat bread. They ate bread and stayed all night in the mountain. Early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. Laban departed and returned to his place. That is quite the tangle of complicated characters, isn't it? We have three tricksters, Jacob, Laban, and Rachel. There is love and family ties, sheep genetics, labor rights, various bits of magic. If this were a used car, the plot bumper probably wouldn't fall off when the salesman slaps the hood. All right, moving on to history of the text. We have a mix of authors in this stretch of the story, the Yahwist, Elohist, and priestly source coming in at the very end of chapter 31, with the redactors stacking them all together to make a very fine layer cake. As always, the Yahwist sources, yes plural, were working in the southern kingdom around 900 BCE. The Elohist sources, yes plural, were writing a competing tradition around the 850s in the northern kingdom. The two were stitched together, pun intended, a little later, and then the priestly source added some very boring details to cement the setting sometime around the Babylonian exile in the 500s. Can we get a hooray for the editors of this little narrative? Literary analysis. Now, before we get going on this, I'd like a word with the Archbishop of Canterbury about the location of these chapter divisions. Were you basing these on book page structure or something else entirely the modern world would like to know? Characters in order of appearance. In chapter 30, verse 25 and on, we have Rachel, baby Joseph, Jacob and Laban in speaking role, Laban's sons, sheep, goats, camels, donkeys, and servants. In chapter 31, we have in speaking roles, Jacob, Laban's sons, Laban, Yahweh, Rachel, Leah, the angel of God, and then in non-speaking role, the flocks, Jacob's sons, camels, Laban's relatives, and then Bilhah and Zilpah. The setting takes place in Padan Aram, modern-day Turkey on the border of Syria, and goes into the hills of Galid in present-day Jordan. The story takes place between 1709 and 1703 BCE when Jacob is around 97 years old at the end. Think 40 or 50-ish for like real world ages. And all of his children are under 12. The story is told in the prose narrative style and the third person omniscient point of view. For a plot summary, Jacob thinks it's time to get out of this dead-end job, so Uncle Daddy-in-law Laban sweetens the pot by offering decorative sheep and goats, but then immediately welches on the deal. But that's okay, because old Jake knows a thing or two about sticks, tricks, and spotted livestock, and his bespeckled herd grows. 6 years later, and the field office politics get to be a little much, so after a quick meeting with his wives, they pack up the kids and skedaddle off to Canaan, but not before Rachel loots the family heirlooms. Laban chases after, gets a warning to play nice from God, and then has it out with his kin. They talk out their differences, have a party around some rocks, and everyone gets well wishes and goodbye kisses. Sometimes a character will grab my attention, and they don't have to be anything special in the story, and that's what happened here with Laban. His name might be Laban, but I'm not entirely certain about that. It seems like there's a disagreement over pronunciation on this character, so I'm just saying Laban. Character study. Laban the Syrian is this complicated character who has a cool little story arc, and we're left wondering about him. Yes, he's definitely a trickster, he can be shady, but also his actions are understandable. Jacob shows up at his house with nothing but the clothes on his back, and unlike Eliezer, who came with a caravan of camels and bride goods, Jacob has nothing. If Jacob told him everything, then if I were Laban, I wouldn't be handing over my beloved daughter to this lying, stealing bum of a nephew either. He'd need to prove himself, and he does. But was it truly the custom of the eldest to marry first, or did Laban have other motives? Was he trying to offload an ugly or depressive daughter, trying to protect both of his girls from undesirable marriages, or did he clock Jacob really well and know he'd go for another 7-year contract for Rachel? Laban knows Yahweh is blessing him because of Jacob's presence, and Jacob is a good worker. Best to keep a man like that around. But could Laban keep him by showering him with wealth, or by keeping him on the verge of poverty? Did Laban truly have little, or was Jacob just saying stuff in the heat of the argument? I don't think it mattered either way in the end. And if Jacob had indeed told him everything, then if Laban lets them go back to Isaac, he's letting them go back into a potentially hostile territory with a potentially angry twin brother Esau. I think we can see that Laban loves his family, but isn't above exploiting them for economic gain. That doesn't make him an evil man, but it doesn't make him a good one either. Much like King Abimelech, we see God warn him not to harm the descendant of Abraham, and to let, in this case, his daughters go. But before he does, he extracts the promises of peace and family ties from Jacob because he knows he can't trust him otherwise. Literary devices! We have a heap of these. First is wordplay. Laban means white. Laban wants the white sheep. He's also a symbol for spiritual growth and, ironically, trickery, as he stands as a foil to Jacob's character. There is a theme of sympathetic magic in the peeling of sticks, and we'll see this again later, but it's related to sign-seeking from earlier. Symbolism. This is not the last time we'll see rocks as representatives of peace treaties. The stories of Rachel and Rebekah leaving Padan Aram mirror each other. Abraham's servant left riches in exchange for Rebekah, and Jacob leaves with riches and Rachel. This also echoes Abraham and Sarah leaving Egypt far wealthier than they arrived, and we will see this again in the story of the Exodus. Another parallel is Jacob deceiving his father to steal his brother's blessing, and then Rachel deceives her father after stealing the household gods, which represent inheritance. Comparative mythology. We have a few themes, and I'll give you a list of stories that share some of them. On the theme of a father selling his daughters, there is the miller's daughter, which includes fleeing from family. Fleeing from family. We have the father of the twins from the Winnebago Nation, though in this case it's the father hightailing it away and the twins chasing after. Working for marriage. There are so many fairy tales with the impossible task to win a bride, and this story is not that. Maybe the Goose Girl comes the closest here between the poverty and the livestock and the years, though she never declared herself. There's also Hans Christian Andersen's Tale of the Swineherd, though that does not end in a happily ever after for the princess, and it also pulls in the trickster elements. On stolen gods or holy items, the Ketil Runski may be closest. That's a Swedish tale where a boy steals Odin's runes to gain knowledge. I'm only a little sorry for not actually telling another story, but so it goes sometimes. Tatterhood was enough awesomeness for a while there. Conflicts, contradictions, and controversies. Conflicting or missing information within the text. Laban changes Jacob's wages 10 times. We don't actually see Laban doing this in the text. It could be an exaggeration on Jacob's part. Laban does do this first with swapping Leah for Rachel, and then in 30, 31 through 36, Laban removes the agreed upon sheep and goats, gives them to his other sons to pasture far away. Jacob claims Laban does this once to Rachel and Leah, and once in his argument with Laban, Laban doesn't refute it. It's just not shown in the text that he actually did it. So it could be an exaggeration or it could be factual. Conflicting information within the religion or society. The main interpretations of Laban are that he's an evil sorcerer, a protective father, or God's tool. There are so many disagreements about the role that Laban plays and his character, motives, and intentions, but it's fun to think about. Rachel steals the household gods. This may have to do with property rights, since she felt like Laban wasted their dowry and gave them nothing. Therefore, she feels like she is within her rights to take the household gods. It is definitely repeating the theme of stolen inheritance. This is also part of the theme of idol or ancestor worship going forward, and later on the Benjamites steal the daughters of the other tribes of Israel from Shiloh to continue their own inheritance. Contradictions with science. This is the one I've been waiting for. We have peeled sticks as sympathetic magic versus divine intervention versus nutrients in the water versus selective breeding. Sympathetic magic is when ritual objects or actions that resemble and symbolize the thing to be affected are used to bring about the desired outcome. In this case, peeled sticks in the patterns Jacob wanted to see in the sheep. The most common interpretation is that this didn't really do anything. It was all God's blessing that did the patchwork sheepy and goaty, lamb, and kid tricks. Now, I'm going to get this right the heck out of the way because it needs to be swept right the heck out of the way. There is a 2008 paper, Jacob and the Spotted Sheep, the Role of Prenatal Nutrition on Epigenetics of Fur Color, that claims that the nutrients from the peeled branches influence the coat color of the sheep, in this case mice, not sheep, via the agouti gene. We have two big, huge, giant problems here. The first is that they didn't actually test the branches of those tree species to see if soaking them in cold water troughs would extract any nutrients at all. If anyone has any updated papers on this, I would be delighted to read them. I did not find any. Now, I actually do have some experience with extracting stuff from bark and wood. Granted, this is for natural dye purposes, not vitamins and minerals, but in order to get much of anything out of sticks, you need a lot of material. Sometimes you need other substances like alcohol, and you may need to boil or simmer the bark to get more than diddly and squat out of it. So I'm calling sheep balls on this. I've also watered livestock. There is zero chance that the water troughs were full long enough to extract anything for some sheep while excluding others. While the agouti gene does determine coat color, it is not the only gene that determines coat color. There are two others. The black-brown locus and the extension locus work in conjunction with the agouti locus to determine the actual color and pattern of the living sheep. In other words, it's a factor, meaning the agouti gene is a factor, but it's not the only factor. What I think happened is fairly straightforward. Laban's share was the solid-colored animals, both black and white. Jacob's share was the speckled, spotted, and striped. What do you get when you breed black sheep and white sheep? White is dominant, and black is recessive. So in theory, most of the sheep should have been white at a 3-to-1 ratio, with a minority of solid black and a smattering of multicolored individuals. This is what Laban was counting on when he took all of the multicolored sheep and sent them far, far away. Jacob was only dealing with a solid-colored flock at that point, which theoretically would have dominant white genes. But the flock already carried the genes for spotted sheep, which is also a dominant trait that is not carried on the agouti gene. So while there still should have been more white sheep, it's not like the man was dealing with a purebred herd of merino here. It's really not rocket science, it's just heritable traits. We don't have to do chemical analysis on peeled sticks, we just need Punnett squares, and I'm 100% certain that Jacob knew his flock very well, meaning he knew which rams to pair with which ewes and which bucks to pair with which does, because that's the kind of thing that a good farmer pays attention to. Moreover, Jacob didn't have to know about genetics to notice the patterns in heritable traits. Now, I do think that the peeled sticks were symbolic magic, and we need to take Jacob's main character trait into account. He is a trickster. The peeled sticks could have been a ruse to fool Laban's sons, and Jacob knew just how to shoo the rams toward the more favorable matches like any good shepherd. Also, get a look at that sheepy. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? Those are Jacob's sheep, thought to be descendants of the actual breed of sheep in the story. They are just so cool looking, aren't they? I love sheep, though I admit that I prefer to work with their byproducts more than the sheep themselves. Controversies! Genesis 30:43, slavery is wrong! Slavery is wrong! But just to insert some humor here, is he also setting the rods in front of his camels? Do we have spotted camels? Is there such a thing as spotted or striped camels? Laban claims ownership of his daughters and descendants even though they are married to Jacob. The women don't seem particularly keen on staying with Daddy Dearest and are in favor of leaving for Canaan to get away from him. There seems to be a lot of resentment there. I know I said I was going to talk about sexism, and to be honest, I just don't have the bandwidth for a lengthy discussion on it right now. Jacob consults with his wives before moving them to a different country and waits for their agreement. How willing were they in this? I don't know. We can take what they said about their father spending their inheritance and giving them away as foreigners at face value, or there could be very deep emotional waters there. And I just don't want to go swimming right now, sorry. If Bilhah and Zilpah were his daughters via concubines, that makes this so much worse. Did the women have any agency in this at all? And again, have at it in the comments. Questions! What do you think of Laban? What do you think verse 31:24, don't speak either good or bad, means? I feel like we're missing a cultural saying here that has been badly translated and lacks the depth of meaning now. Anything else? Drop it in the comments. There is so much here that I did not cover. Real quick, channel recommendations. FPC Spirit Lake has a series of nice discussions about Jake, and their early videos need way more love than what they're getting right now. If you want an infinitely higher level of snark, Jennifer Bird, PhD, has a series of videos on the Jacob story arc, well worth watching. In closing, thank you so much for joining me on the Secular Scriptures today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, comment, share, do the bell thing. I hope you'll join me next time on the Secular Scriptures. Come back next week.